So the process of abstraction is that when you go from A to B directly, you can go from A to B directly. Or you can take a point C and go to C first, and then you go to A. Now this process of stepping sideways to see what this connection is about and how many different ways I can see the connection between A and B, because I am standing at C, outside that line of thought, I can then explore different ways of connecting A and B. Now this process requires lateral thinking, and that is what is the basics are taught in second year, first earlier. That is the how to think in abstraction and come back to reality. Now this is when you think in abstraction, you take a point C, and then you come back to reality and go back to B, rather than going from A to B directly, which is more of a modernist line of thinking, that you recognize all the problems and you solve the problems and you go from A to B. But this one is to take a sideways step. That means take an abstract step sideways, take a point C and reach there, and then reinterpret the abstraction to reality and reach point B. So this is the fundamental difference between the journey between A and B by introducing a point C here. What diagramming, you ask me, is that normally when you start thinking as a modernist, when you draw a line on the paper, you think I have not drawn anything, but the line explains whether this is a brick wall or a concrete wall. Because the character of the line is already, you draw 3 walls like a university, like your place, you draw 4 walls, parallel walls. It's already clear that you have some brick wall, it is a load bearing system. You will have something like a spanning between the load. So a whole lot of things, material, the way of construction, all that is already clear in your mind. Or at least there it is there in the back of the mind. Now, suppose you draw a diagram where there is no clarity on the materials. Or let's say in your thinking process, you had the material, you had the organization, you brought the light issues, you brought the internal partitioning issues, the cooling and environmental issues, and that is how you put the thing together. Right? Now the diagramming process is, if I take all that in a parchi and put them in a box and shake them, and then pick up one parchi, and I said, I get like you're doing a school, for example, or university, I think there should not be a difference between inside and outside, for example. Now, when I take that as an issue and I express it, there is nothing like wall or roof or form or nothing. It is a diagram that I am talking about. So I think idea is that you do not bring materials, construction methods, grids, orders in there, and you think in issues which are expressed in a very abstract way, and then you reinterpret the issues by adding the material sense and by adding the construction sense into a real building. That way you are able to capture the philosophical component of the building which you want to introduce. Because when you just do the functional component, you miss that spirit of the building gets missed. That is what is important. Primarily, it is separating the layers, jumble them and replace them. And every time you jumble it and replace it, you get a different order. And you go by the order. Be honest and go by the order. And your material is not always the first part which you decide. Climate could become the first part. The philosophy of the building could become the first part. Anything could become first. And then you slowly add things to it. Look, the diagramming process has been interpreted in many different ways by different people. Some take it too geometric, like Peter Eisenman, and some take it more at a philosophical level. So this is kind of a very humble interpretation I have looking at, because we have come from a modern background. So lay down the thing as it is, reshuffle it, and again place it. Yeah. And that way we are able to find a new path. Actually, this diagramming process, almost every time you do a building, can be a new path. You can do it. All you have to do is jumble the process and put it back again and be honest about what you get and follow that. In architecture, even from the beginning, it's always been problem-based learning as far as the studio is concerned. What is not problem-based learning is other subjects which are associated. I mean, the structural engineer still comes and talks about, million calculations on the board and expect you to do that. That is what should become problem-based. So we teach structure by making and breaking, and they learn why it is breaking and how can I improve it, and that is how you learn structure. In construction, you put two pieces of timber together, and that problem is given to you, a larger problem, and you see how to put things together. And can it be put like that, or like that, or like that, or like that? And you try all that. That's the problem. You solve it in the best way, and that is where the learning comes. So I think not the studio, but we believe that almost all other subjects should also be learned as problem-based learning. And this is what is missing. Architecture, as far as the studios are concerned, we are one of the very few educational systems in there where it has been problem-based learning from the very beginning, because studio is a problem-based learning. I know that a lot of teachers have produced some very good work, but they control so much that almost each design is being done in their diary, and before the student can think, the faculty has already thought what the next step is going to be, and that is fed to the students. Exactly, the result is great, but then that is a problem. The result is not the student's work. Student has become a tool to express what the faculty is thinking. I think this fundamentally I disagree with this system here. The second problem in that kind of a system when you feed like this is that there are two types of students here. One who just want to pass. Whatever you tell them, they will exactly do the same thing and come back next day. And you end up criticizing your own work, you give more credit, they'll do the same thing and come back next day. So you basically looking at your own work every day. The second type of students are that if you tell them, if you discuss something, then they will make sure that what you discuss is not taken, because that is not their idea. They would want to have their idea. So even that is not correct, because when a student asks you something, you would not like to give them an ordinary example. You would like to give them one of the good examples. And because they don't want to accept the example which is given by you, so a very good line of thought is put aside. So both are not correct. We have to inspire them to go further. If you feel that you have to feed somebody, then you have to kill your ego and feed it in such a way that student feels that is his or her idea. Now, generally, if a faculty feeds, the faculty starts taking more pride and say, Tanak, last time I told you to do this, you haven't done it. So you already taken the ownership of the idea. No, the ownership of the idea must remain with the student. And though you feel it's a great idea and you have given the idea, you have to keep yourself shut and allow the student to take the credit till the very end. The moment you open your mouth, the great idea will get dumped, and the student would tend to do something else. So as a teacher, one of the best quality which a teacher must have is not to overpower your personality on the student. When you give an idea, allow the student to take that idea and become the owner of the idea. You do not take the ownership of the idea. It's a very difficult task, because your ego hurts when you do something like that. But this is the fundamental important thing. You must do it. That itself, you experiment on this, that itself will make you a better teacher. I take a very different stand on this, the way I always discuss with the students on this. You see, our old traditional method of lending money to poor villagers, once they lend the money, then they said, oh, paisa, you have to return the money, you have to come and work for us in the city. So a couple comes to city with 2-3 kids, and they're given a shack next to the construction site, and they're given 700 rupees a day, 2 of them. They do your brick loading, they do everything, they do the ek mason hoga, then there will be more people who are doing that. They do the same concreting, they do everything. So why should a builder change the method of construction? We are doing the same construction which we are doing for last 200 years. British did the better construction than what is being done. That is because there is a couple available to work for 10 hours a day at 700, 800 rupees. The day that one person starts charging 3,000, 5,000 rupees a day, the builders will have to get up and change their construction system. But it is not in control of architects here. We may think something, but the builders don't accept that thinking, because to them, they will have to hire a specialized person to do that kind of a construction. This 700 rupees a day, a couple cannot do that kind of a construction which we can think. So the construction is not in our hand, it is in the hand of the builders right now. And unless the social system changes and the basic salary increases from here to there, like in Australia, for example, I was there. I was paying a carpenter $35 an hour. How much? Per hour, $35. When you have to pay like that, then a designer, you have to think that how I can streamline the construction so that in 1 day of my carpenter's work, I can get the maximum output. But when I'm only paying 700 rupees per day, why should I apply my mind to think how to innovatively make the construction better? You see, this is the fundamental issue in our construction, in our society here. Just then, that labor starts getting 2,000 or 3,000 or 5,000 a day, this entire thing will change, and we will have to think of innovative methods to cut down the cost of labor. Agreed. Should be done. Should be done. Like in the previous institution I was there, whole lot of timber. You were there also, in terms of stud wall and lightweight constructions. All that we were introducing, and a lot of people are questioning why you're doing that. But we said not for now, for 10 years down the line. So introduction should be there. All the new technologies should be introduced to the students. But we shouldn't be disheartened that they are not being applied right now. Time will have to come in future sometime. Only when certain amount of equality in the social equality starts coming, only then this will happen.